Sunday, September 22. I'm Joey, only Caribou Weather Dude. I've been making a couple videos in a row now, 3 videos as a matter of fact, talking about what's coming to the coast. The big storms in the Pacific, coming to the coast, coast. That's got people asking me, Joey, what does that mean for me here in the interior? What does that mean for me in Western Canada, right? So we're going to talk about what this means for you. Interesting week ahead. It's going to be hot, but also snowy in the mountains. Okay, let's go. Bad news time. There it is. This is bad news. My God.
Falling out right now.
Anything could happen. Get on! Wow.
I'll watch the video later.
They dry mopping this. Sponsor for this episode is still CanadianTraining.ca, which launches on October 1st. But this is part of Butterfly Effect Communications. You can check them out. That includes the podcast that's I've also been mentioning on here, which is communicationspodcast.ca. See Tim Conrad and his people. They're actually specialized in communications. He's a communications officer, and he's been on many fires. So I'm very proud to actually be sponsored by a communications officer who's served our province during some of the greatest crises we've had over the last few years involving fires. So really cool bunch of guys. Please check them out, CanadianTraining.ca. We'll just start today by checking out the weather station here in Wells, my own personal weather station. So far today, 16 millimeters have accumulated. Well, let's just refresh this. So yeah, 16 millimeters straight on. So you can see we've had a couple bursts of rain. One that started sort of near midnight last night. Went to 2:30 a.m., 1 2 a.m. or something like that. Another one that started this morning about 5:34 a.m. Rained for quite a while. Then it stopped sometime around 7:24, but then it really started to rain later on at there you go, 8:49. So raining off and on here in Wells today. Some pretty serious looking rain. It's been awesome. So far in the month of September, we've had 55 millimeters fall here at my place. So been we've had as high as 29 degrees and as low as minus 2.1. So as you can see, ever since, well, more or less that 8th or 9th of September, we've been gradually going down and down and down in our daily highs today. Now we're at 12 degrees in the it's the afternoon right now. What time is it in the afternoon? 2 p.m. right now. It's 12 degrees. So we're probably seeing that's probably the warmest it's going to get today. So that's a far cry from where we were just a couple weeks ago here in September. And we are moving quickly away from that, but we are going to see a couple of warmer days ahead. We'll talk about that in a second. Well, much like yesterday, we continue 50 millimeters, higher amounts possible over the west coast of Haida Gwaii, 70 to 100 millimeters maybe in Prince Rupert to Hartley Bay and through Monday, and then 50 to 100 millimeters still in Stewart, New Ianish, Terrace, Highway 16, Kitimat, portions of Highway 37, stuff like that. So strong storm system approaching the north coast of British Columbia today, set to bring heavy rain to the region through Monday. Rainfall rates are forecast to be heaviest on Monday. So we are not even hitting the heaviest rain so far yet in this first of the 3 or more storms. Do have a couple new records being set up in Nunavut. Especially Clyde River hit 14.4 yesterday, and they've been keeping records there since 1933. So that smashed the old record of 8.9. So still very warm trend up in the Arctic going on. All right, this is going to kick me off onto my next discussion point here, and that's about snowfall. So I did have a member from my Patreon there message me last night from Likely and say, hey, when do I have to worry about snow? And I encourage this sort of thing. You know, if you're a patron or a member of the channel, you know, you're supporting me, I'm here to answer your questions, right? So I don't feel afraid to ask. So we're going to answer that question right now. For Likely, how much? Well, we do have snow coming. We do got snow coming this next week, more likely than not. Later in the week, we could see even 13 centimeters in Wells. Maybe we'll see 8, maybe we'll see 15. I don't know. It's a little far out still yet. You know, we're talking Thursday, Friday, probably for when that specifically hits us. But you know, look in the Caribou Mountains and we're seeing, like, say, some pretty big snowfall totals up there for sure. Some pretty big snowfall totals. Now, you're lucky for you down in Likely. You are in a low enough elevation where you're probably not going to see any snow. In fact, that's going to be the same for most people in BC. Even if you live near the mountains, you might see snow on the mountains nearby showing up this next week, depending on how much falls where and how tall the mountains are. Some of those mountains may not lose that snow. You know, this may be here to stay for them, you know, and especially if you're looking at, like I was mentioning yesterday, Mount Waddington. These are the guys down in the Coast Mountains. That's the highest peak on the entire BC Coast Mountain range. So, you know, if it takes 60, 80, or 100 centimeters of snow up there this next week, quite likely some of that snow is not going to melt off. It's there to stay, right? So, and you know, we're bouncing around a little bit for where the biggest snowfall totals are going to be, and you know, we got time to see what happens yet this week. This isn't going to be look at where people live in BC. They mostly all live at the low elevation. Generally, towns were founded at low elevations because water was there. Water is a traveling way. It's the best way to get around is to make roads through the lowest country. It's like, so our societies are developed on top of the very same places where First Nations people said, hey, we should live here because it's not snowy, it's a little warmer, it's drier down at the bottom of the valley bottoms. Like if you're in a place like Kamloops, you look up and you can see trees on top of the mountains and you go, well, it's less air at the top of the mountain than it is here at the bottom of the valley. So it's like people have chose to build societies in places that make sense to do so very often, except for here in Wells where they just said, wow, there's gold there, let's build a town. So except for those of us who are crazy and live in these places that exist for resource reasons that don't seem to make much survival sense, why would you want to live at 4,000 feet in a place like this far north in the Caribou Mountains? Nobody else does that in all of Canada. Nobody lives this far north at this elevation. So possibly, I don't know if any of the stuff that lands up in Spitsizi, in Ossalinka and these places up here are going to really see meaningful snow that lasts. No, but snowfall will be falling, right? And you can bet if it's falling down through the coast mountains and it maybe not showing up on models yet, any significant way, but we do have like a little blop here, a little blop there down east of Hope. Well, you can imagine the Coquihalla Highway, if there's going to be snow flying in BC, it seems to always land there as well. It's just kind of how she goes, right? So, expect these to change. Snowfall in the mountains this week, and that's on top of precipitation that'll be landing everywhere else, right? So maybe the mountains are getting some snow, but maybe it's also a mix of rain and snow. So the same places that we're looking at snowfall, we're also looking at possible rain. 121 millimeters up in those Caribou Mountains. For you, and likely, you're probably going to just see mostly some rain. And hey, 46 mils in the next week, still a lot of rain. That's definitely considerable. But, not like you're going to see in the tall mountains. These are up by the ice fields, basically, in the Caribou Mountains. They're very, very tall mountains there. They're, for people who don't realize, the Caribou Mountains are pretty much just an extension of the Selkirks, of the Columbias, right? So these are basically the same mountain ranges, more or less. For some reasons that they're classified differently geologically, or for physical reasons, or for social reasons, but nonetheless, you're going to find in the depth of the Caribou Mountains the same kind of mountains. So it looks like everyone's going to be getting some rain though this weekend in BC, or this week in BC. A little bit of precip over the week, and it'll be less so maybe down by Kamloops. In fact, check this out. Our on again, off again weather is once again now pounding. I guess you can't see much out the window, but that's rain going on out there once again. It's just raining in Wells again. So solid rainfalls all through. So when I was making that video last week, Monday, saying fire season is over, this is what I was talking about, right? I knew this was coming. I knew that we were coming into a pattern now where, of course, if you're on the coast, if you're up by Prince Rupert and places, or, there's going to be some insane rainfall totals coming through there this week, and you could debate whether the number is going to be 250 or 500. For the purposes of my forecasting, that's not very relevant. It's the overall trend that's relevant, right? And especially for trying to forecast here in the BC interior. Of course, the Peace is going to see a little less of that rain as well. But some of those big totals, our fire that was raging in this area, just the other side of Surf Inlet, it's going to take a lot of rain, man. So, that's a good sign. What we really want to see is before that area gets deluged with snow, we'd like to see it just get hammered with rain. That would be really, really positive. So that we have less chance of a holdover fire next year, that it survives. That what happens too is that when you get a lot of snow on top of it, it tends to insulate them, and fire can somehow survive underneath snow easier than it can just taking a pounding of several hundred millimeters of rain. That would be very, very ideal out of the El Nino and into the La Nina pattern that we're into. Presently, La Nina watch. La Nina watch. La Nina favored to emerge September, November. 71% chance expected to persist through March 2025. And you can go onto a website like this, find all this information for yourself and try to understand and learn what it means. But La Nina pattern for BC winters generally means precipitation, a proper rainforest BC winter that we are expecting to see. So yes, there is a lot of rainfall this week, but also we have this going on this week. Temperature. We're going to back up to Monday afternoon, but we could be seeing on Monday, and that seems unbelievable right now considering how much it's raining right now. We could see 23 in Williams Lake, 24 up Alexandria, maybe even up to Quesnel, 23. Could see 17 in Wells. That's hard to believe. 21 in Nasco. Hey, Caribou. Nice. Springhouse, 24s. 100 Mile into the 20s. Cache Creek 20s. Kamloops 20s. So this is nice. Kelowna maybe 25. Low 20s near the foothills in Alberta. Places in Alberta hitting the mid 20s, even high 20s down Lethbridge, maybe Medicine Hat getting 26 or better, right? So Kamloops 27. Some warm days. Warm days. That low pressure's already like squeezing in on Tuesday. It's not going to last very long, right? By Wednesday already, where are we at? Bam, Alberta really benefiting from the heat. Saskatchewan really benefiting from the heat. You're going to be like the garden spot in all of Canada for that day, especially. Right, so enjoy that. You're going to be approaching 30s in some places down by the border. On the other side of the border, quite possibly, while BC cools off quickly. And maybe the warmest temperatures we're going to find, maybe just on average, you could find maybe 18s down in the southern interior, but that's still cooling off because by Thursday afternoon, things are dropping fast. That new low that we were talking about is approaching. You can see how it's drawing that warmth in all the way, and that line of moisture all the way in. I mean, this is going to be an incredible storm, it looks like. So we'll revisit that real quickly right now. Bam, there it is. Still mostly saying the same thing it was showing us yesterday. That large low area, very powerful, dropping down as it hits the BC coast into the 970 millibars. Going to slam Thursday night, overnight into the coast. Going to see some snow up in the mountains overnight on Thursday night. So we're going to go from very warm days for some of us to a quick cool off to even in the mountains, the higher you go up in elevation, the quick cooler it's going to be, right? So all eyes will be on this for this week. We may even see a little bit of lightning. We may see a mix of rain and snow and precipitation through that time. We'll have closer looks at that as we get into the week, right? But for now, kind of the story is more or less that the coast is going to take storm after storm after storm in the chin, and it looks like maybe even a fourth one now. I mean, we sort of saw that possibly yesterday, but it looks like even a fourth one now. And I bet you by the time that slams in, we don't know, but it's looking like it could be another. It looks like each storm is getting stronger and stronger as we head into October. So something else I'm keeping watch on for Wednesday, because we've just had all that warm temperatures. And what happens when you take a bunch of dry, warm place and then you throw a bunch of cold and moisture at it? Well, they seem to always have thunderstorms pop up, right? So we're looking at possibly southern BC. Could see a really strong line go through up into Revelstoke and whatnot. So we're watching for that this week. I think in our next forecast, we'll have a closer look at how strong those storms are. And they're going to jet off. I mean, that looks like it's racing. Just racing up across into from Hinton, Slave Lake, Fort McMurray, and beyond. Racing thunderstorm potential on Wednesday. And by Thursday, you'll see some of that same energy up by Lac La Ronge and north, moving its way towards Manitoba quickly. So I have every reason to suspect that this next strong low that comes on Friday will result in a Alberta Clipper forming, right? So we'll probably see some strong storms hitting into Alberta next weekend too, and into Saskatchewan. So we'll have more on that too as the week goes on. But yeah, this forecast for this week in BC especially is really all over the place, right? It was from thunderstorm potential on Friday to freezing rain to sleet to snow up in the mountains into Friday night. So we got rounds and rounds of really crappy weather. But hey, today's messaging is we got Monday and Tuesday of warm days. Get stuff done. Okay, if you got things to do outside, things for your job or things for your life, whatever you got things to do, get stuff done on those 2 days, because there's going to be some days where you're going to be taking some rain, right? And it's going to cool off and whatnot. So we'll pay attention to that more and more as the week goes on. But yeah, start of the week is warm, but don't worry, snow's coming too. Everything here in the Cariboo and beyond, British Columbia, it's a very fickle province. We got the elevation, we got topography working in our favor, and we got ocean right there. We have, it's not too far to go north to hit the Arctic, but you go to south, we got like deserts. It's like, man, this province is all over the place, and I think this forecast really reflects that, right? So a couple warm days, everybody. Hey, hit like, share, subscribe, join the Patreon, tell a friend, help me keep growing this channel. Thanks to all the new people joining up and supporting and whatnot. And hey, I'm trying my best to be original here. Check this out. Hey, not only do I love your positive comments, I love your negative one too. What the fuck are you spewing? My God, get original, says Ryger. And hey, I went and checked out his page. It is original. His new video, Dogs Gone Wild. I decided not to watch it, even though I know he needed a 15th view. Thanks for your comment, though. We do read them here. You're not going to really faze me or affect me. I'm having a good time doing what I'm doing, and we're growing. We're growing in success. I think Rogers Television is talking about putting us on more stations yet. So we've expanded to Northern Vancouver Island stations now too. So hey, our podcast is getting out there. I'd love to find more radio stations to play us on, more college stations, things like that. Maybe you know of one nearby that's looking for some material to fill the late night or whatever. Put on the Meteorological Report. Hey, we got a good show. We're putting it on, and you can find it on Apple and Spotify and all those places that you can find podcasts. So keep checking us out, everybody. That's pretty much what I got to say for today. Enjoy the start of your week. Bye for now.